So good to see so many of you. It was a labour of love making this Bristol film because I'm a fan of Bristol. But I made sure that I got Bristolians to make the film. And the first thing they said is, we're not going to make it about the bus boycott all the time. so I hope, well, we'll hear your opinions about the film shortly. So we're going to bring some people up. Aaliyah will be asking questions. Can we get Asher from the World Reimagined up, our head of community? Can we get Euella Jackson, our director? Wonderful director up, please. Can we get Adassa Dixon up, who was our head of heritage? She found all of that footage that you've seen there, some really rare footage. It wasn't cheap. It was not cheap. Is Amirah Cole here? Is Amirah here today? Oh, yes, Amirah, can you come up, please? As a contributor, I think they told you. No? Are you happy to come up? And I think Asher Craig would like to say a few words before we start our Q&A. Yes, Asher, come up, Asher Craig. And then Aaliyah, you've got to go that side. But Asher will say a few words. Asher, do you want this mic before? And then you can give it to Aaliyah.
So good evening, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed all of the films that you've seen, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. I thought I was going to make this speech before the film, so I'm going to have to adapt it slightly. But I just want to say a few words, just a couple of minutes. So it really is a joy to see each and every one of you here, and for tonight's launch of Community Becoming Black and British Bristol. First, I do want to thank our incredible partners, the World Reimagined, and more specifically, the wonderful Jael, for sharing the opportunity to create this film, and for their commitment to helping us bring Black British stories to life in cities across the UK and right here in Bristol. I had the privilege of seeing the London version when it first came out, and I jumped at the opportunity when Michelle came knocking and asked Bristol if we wanted to do something similar. Of course, huge congratulations to the brilliant Euella Jackson, who directed this beautiful piece of work, so thank you. This film speaks so powerfully to the very reason the Bristol Legacy Foundation exists, to tell our stories, to celebrate our truth, and to ensure that our legacy is not just remembered, but deeply rooted in the history and future of this city. You all have already recognized many familiar faces in this film, people whose everyday actions, resilience and pride continues to shape Bristol's Black story. I also want to give special thanks to the team, Asher, Mario and Adassa, and all the young people who worked with such passion and creativity to bring this project to the screen. Your energy and vision shine through every frame. So tonight, as we celebrate the launch, let's remember that this is more than just a film. It's a living archive. It's a reminder of who we are and of the power that comes from owning and telling our own stories. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was such a nice way to open this up. That was great. Before we begin, we are going to do a first Q&A with the contributors and everyone who helped make the film, and then we're going to do a quick switcheroo and hear from some of the mentees on who was also working on the film, and then we're going to do another switcheroo and open it back up to the audience so everyone can get a chance to hear about the creation of this fantastic film. I would love to go down the panel and just get everyone to do an introduction and in what capacity you were helping to make this film. Introduce yourself.
Amirah Cole. I was one of the people interviewed in the film.
Hi, I'm Adassa Dixon. I'm a historian specialising in Black history, and I acted as the heritage lead and researcher for this documentary.
Hi, I'm Euella Jackson. I was the director and mentor in this documentary.
Hi, my name's Jael. I'm community engagement lead with the World Reimagined, and this project started with a series of conversations between myself and Michelle Jael, in various ways, and ideas grew and grew, funding bids went back and forth until we got here.
Thank you. Euella, I'll start with you. Use the mic. Can you not hear me? Yeah. Oh, really? I'll grab that one.
Oh, no.
Does that work better? Yes. Perfect. Okay, amazing. Euella, I'll start with you. So I found this film to be so beautiful and honest, and it was very vibrant and spoke to the city of Bristol very well. As an ignorant Londoner, I don't know much about Bristol, but I felt like I got a real beautiful snapshot of what it meant to everyone that was in the film. And you do a great job at just doing a small snapshot. So again, every round of applause for how beautiful the film was. I think it would be great to get an idea of how you came to make this film with The World Reimagined, and how this film kind of came from an idea into what we've just seen just now.
Yeah, so I really want to shout out The World Reimagined for... Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Shout out The World Reimagined for, bringing me on the project. I think it's something that kind of grew in my mind as something, just kind of being able to really get deeper into my history. So my parents are from Bristol, but I'm not a born and bred Bristolian. So it was really great being able to research alongside the team and understand what are the stories worth telling. And I think I found it quite difficult because there is so much. And also, I had a conversation with one of the contributors out there of like, if this was something that was just going to be shared amongst the community, it would have been a different film. But I think because feeling that pressure of like knowing that London and Leeds were also, this is us not comparing, but we're in conversation with each other, wanting to be able to show some of the really important stories, to show that kind of, what do you think of when you think of Bristol? Obviously, you've got to have a bit of the statue toppling, because that's what people know. So, you've got to have the street art, you've got to have the colours. So that was really important, but it meant that you get into this place where you're like, oh, I want to cram it all in. And actually, thank you so much to everyone for like helping shape that a little bit and making it a little bit more concise. But there was just so much that we could have put in. And Bristol is such a brilliant place. And the Black community particularly is small, but, compared to London. But there's so much richness and so much stories that we wanted to unearth that we didn't get to in this documentary, in this version. Hopefully there's more funding for
more funding
a
is always
series.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you come to find your contributors?
Do you want to talk about that a little bit
Yeah,
as
go for
well?
it.
Yeah, sure. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. That kind of came under my remit. The starting point was actually the history. And first and foremost, I'm a historian, so my focus is always going to be on kind of unearthing that historical narrative and then finding some of those names. Lots of documentaries or films or projects have happened surrounding Black Bristolian history, and many of them have been really seminal. But one piece of feedback that really came through is sometimes you people talk to the wrong people, and we've heard enough from some of the same people, and that there are lots of people, especially at this time from a particular generation, where it may be our last chance to hear some of those stories in their completeness. So the early phase, the R&D phase, for me felt more like a Scooby-Doo investigation of trying to figure out some of the names from some of the faces, from some of these unnamed, untitled, unreferenced photos in the bottom of a bin in an archive. So I'm really grateful for everybody that we did manage to find and who was willing, honestly, to trust us, to attempt to tell the story that they had to tell. Yeah.
I found the archive footage to be a real nice accompaniment to the film. I think it adds a layer of texture, but also just like context. Sometimes it's nice to hear stories, but also having that visual really helps amplify the story. How did you go about sourcing some of that footage?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the first starting point was definitely the Bristol City Archives, which I'd say the majority of the material does come from. But it's one of those things where there is no repository It's not a Google Images search for, oh, I'd like a picture of this act and this act. If you went to a museum and you said, can I see some material on the Industrial Revolution, they'd give you enough folders to climb. But no such repository exists for our history, and I think that says a lot about how we value it. And how much attention we pay to ourselves, each other, our community. So I won't pretend that it was an easy process. It was a very difficult process at times, and much of the most valuable stuff came from the contributions of our interviewees, who opened their hearts and their photo albums and their phone books for other contacts. That's where most of the good stuff comes from.
That kind of leads me on to my next question quite well. In terms of being interviewed, how did you find, I think you find a lot of, some of the stories that we hear from are quite fun and they're very vibrant, but they're also quite sensitive topics as well. How did you find kind of relaying these sorts of stories of Bristol when we're working with Euella?
So being interviewed, it was, being asked to be interviewed I was quite shocked at that anyway. But then listening to the stories and just, obviously this is the first time I've seen this, and seeing all the people who were interviewed, and actually knowing that you understand their stories. And I've been in Bristol all my life, and so some people have come into Bristol after that, and then they've got a story too, and you're still part of that story. So it kind of really makes me feel how rooted I am here in Bristol, really. I don't know if that's a good thing. But, I mean, yeah, seeing Lloyd, yes, yeah, we go back so far. So and then, yeah, everything, his mentoring and all that. And I think back to the Education Action Zone days where I employed him. And that's, he started doing his mentoring and, so it just makes me realize, actually, how many lives you touch. You don't really realize it until you see that. I think everybody in that film I probably worked with in some way, shape or form. It was just really wonderful to be able to see that and to share my story, which was my personal story, but then seeing their story, actually realizing how many different ways my story could have gone, because I could tell you a story about each one of them too. And so, yeah.
And what drew you to be part of the story? What, like, when you got reached out to, what made you think, yes, I actually want to be vulnerable and share my story?
Okay, well, so this is just so mad. So Euella, I went to school with her dad, who is in Jamaica, who said to you, didn't he, you have to speak to Amirah.
To chat to Amirah.
Yeah, right. And it was really odd because I think it was probably about a week or 2 weeks before that, I got this video from Jamaica, some beach in Jamaica, and I was like, well, who's this? Sending me, showing me how busy the beach was, and it's never been like this on a Sunday. And so I'm texting back, who's this? And it's her dad. So it was really then, a couple of weeks later, I then get this phone call from her, and it was just like, yeah, it's just mad, the way it all just came together, really.
And Euella, as a director, you do have somewhat of a duty of care to your contributors, especially when you're handling kind of sensitive topics of these deep-rooted traumas, because whilst the film is vibrant, there are nods to some unpleasant truths about living in the city. How do you navigate that, and how do you look after your contributors, but also look after yourself when having to kind of listen to all of this?
Yeah, no, I would say there's such a responsibility there that I didn't enjoy. Really, I think it really kept me up at night, and I didn't really, I think there's that balance, because while there are so many great stories and positive stories, there are also, and I think because we're all friends here and it's Black History Month, we can talk about the fact that there are some conversations about our community spaces and ownership and archive, and the fact that we had to pay so much money to Getty images for stuff that should belong to us. And you kind of want to make a documentary that says, hello, we need to get our stuff together, but also you want to be able to celebrate, like, look what we have, and have like an asset-based mindset of like, wow, look at all the great stuff that's happening. So I think it was a tension, I think, for me and for the rest of the team around how do you represent people well? That, you know, Farah, who's here today, was our DOP and a part of the editing team. You know, there were times when we would be walking around in Easton trying to film, trying to capture some of the beauty, and people were like, "What? Why you got a camera? What are you doing?" You know, and that's obviously because of the mistrust and the way that our stories have been, not handled well in the past, and also. I didn't feel like with any confidence, even though that was my intention, I could say, you know, we're going to present everyone in the best way, because you just don't know how the story, and we don't know how people, I want to check in with all the contributors and make sure that they are happy with it. But I think even the fact that some people spoke so much and so eloquently about certain topics, and it didn't make it into, and that is something that I haven't quite gotten to the point of my filmmaker land of being able to be like, well, that's show business or whatever, you know. I'm like, oh God, they said some great stuff and it's not in there. I hope they're okay. So yeah. We'll make a longer. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Someone like noting that down.
Budget. Budget.
Yeah.
Budget.
Yeah.
A big theme that I found within the film is that there is this big concept of resilience and resistance within Bristol, and that was like something I kept on, like really key theme that I found in the film. Why do you think Bristol, and this is a question to the floor, why do you think Bristol has that such resilience and just figure that maybe other cities just don't possess?
You want to go?
I can maybe speak to resilience a little bit, but I think we have a big myth of resilience in our current culture. We seem to celebrate people who have gone from rags to riches, who have suffered, who have struggled to overcome. And it's not that resilience doesn't exist, but I think all human beings, it's part of what makes us human. We are innately resilient. But what I do think is true is that resilience comes from working together through cooperation, and that's what I think makes any city which is resilient, or any community which is resilient. It's the working together, it's the coming together, it's the it's pulling the ship in together. So I'm not from Bristol, you probably tell by my accent, but if you're telling me Bristol's resilient, then I can assume that people are working together here.
Yeah, well, I know that Amirah, that was one of the things that you said, you know, like we have a history of resistance. And I think one of the things that we found in the interviews was this kind of insider-outsider thing, particularly in St. Paul's and Easton. And, you know, when you have like the threats of the National Front, and there were people saying, you know, if you go into this area, you're going to get beaten up. If you go into town, the community instantly trauma bonds, basically, and pulls together and is really collaborative. And you have, you know, a lot of our, you know, my grandparents, you know, everyone was in one house and everyone had all these families in different rooms. So I think that's where that kind of, I think a lot of that comes from that. But on the flip side, when you do have this outsider-insider perspective, it's like when you have newcomers, it's like certain suspicions of like, who are you and how do you, you know, like, can we trust you and stuff like that. So I think there's two sides to it, but I definitely think that because the community, like geographically, is relatively small compared to places like London, there is this real kind of like, you know, like the connection between Amirah and everyone. You know, I think that means that there's a lot of like trust there. But I'd like to hear from you.
So I think that's correct, but also we see the resilience in what we have or what we had. So all our cornerstone organisations, like, you know, St. Paul's African Caribbean Carnival, Malcolm X Community Centre, you know, the Bamboo Club, Kumba, all those organisations, they are part of that resilience, and they were set up and supported us in some way, shape or form. So in terms of maybe now, because they're not functioning the way that they used to function, and they don't have they don't play the role that they played. Like, you know, when I was growing up, you know, Bamboo Club was there. Even at Malcolm X, let's take Malcolm X because I'm there now. But you know, it was a place where you would go. You would always have opportunities there to see plays and stuff like that, or to go to talks, and it played a role in the whole community. You know, you would go to an event there and the person who had baked the cake be somebody who would be local. You know, people be wearing clothes that was sewn by somebody who was local. So we don't so much see that now, but that's what's built into us. And we, luckily enough, in that area, we had quite a few of those organisations, and that is obviously credit to our parents who came into this country and met what they met, but they were still, and they had to be resilient to form those organisations for them to function, to get us through to what we see today. I know sometimes we think we don't have a lot today, but I think sometimes we look at the wrong things. We still have those buildings, whether we can argue whether they're run well or not, but we still have them within our community. And then if we feel that it's not being run the way it should be, then it's our responsibility and our duty to do something to make it happen rather than look somewhere else. So we've got the foundations. I think we just don't really kind of recognise, and because society's changed a lot now, and it might be easier to go into another area and find another building rather than actually have a reasoning with the building what was set up for you and your community. You know, so you're looking at your legacy really, and I just think that we're so lucky. Our area is so lucky. You know, Malcolm X, Kumba, St. Paul's African Caribbean Carnival started on. You know, all those started from nothing. And they're still there now, so we must have done something right. Our parents must have done something right.
Amirah, how can the community continue the legacy that has been already founded? Because I think in a digital age, we are drawing to our phones, to online communities instead of the people to our left and to our right. Is it possible? How can we still kind of maintain the integrity of what's already been built?
So, yeah, I think about this all the time. And I think for us, like for me, like I'm one of the elders now, and I open my arms for younger people to come in. And you have to accept that when they come in, they may not do things the way you do. Well, the chances are they're not. They're technology. Like, nobody will do things the way I do. Right? I'm proper old school, right? So, but, you know, it's like, what's your role? So just to like sort of, I'll just give an example. You've got to know what your role is, right? So if we go back to Kumba, I remember I was at Kumba one time. I was arts of education and ed of education and arts, sorry. And when I used to go into school and do like different workshops and stuff with children, and then they got younger people in who took that over, and I could always remember thinking, well, I wouldn't do it like that. But actually, they did it, and they did it really well, and that engaged the people of that time. So it's like actually just respecting that rather than thinking, well, nah, that's not the way I ever did it, and sometimes you have to let go of that. And it's really funny because it's part of, for my journey, is that I've learned to do that. That when I go to a place to support a place, and I do say I feel like blessed to be able to support a place, like Malcolm X or wherever. I see that I have a limited time there. I see that I'm there for a purpose. And then once my purpose is over, I'm happy to move on, but not cast judgment on what comes behind. My role, I've fulfilled my role. So as long as, and that is about making sure it's here for a longer time. And then, who knows what will come, as long as it remains within our community. What difference does it make? Because that's what I see, and it's doing positive stuff, in our community. So it's very difficult. And I hear younger people talk all the time about, the elders can't, the elders don't let them in, they just sit on boards. We had some young people on the board at Malcolm X. They didn't last long because a lot of the older people didn't really support them in the way that it should have been. So we have to open our minds as elders, and we have to understand that we've not that you've had your time, but your time is limited, and at some point your role is about just nurturing what's coming, within young people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. That was really amazing. Really appreciate it. We're going to switch and get the mentees onto the stage. Yeah. Yeah.
That was the perfect way to intro us to the mentees. Because with this project, we didn't just interview the pioneers of Bristol. We also wanted to have an intergenerational conversation. So we trained 3 young people on how to film content, and they conducted some of the interviews with the elders so they could really see how the elders helped establish the lives that they now enjoy. So if the mentees can come down, Euella, you can come back. Hi. One of them you can see here because she did the poem. Did you write that poem after interviewing before?
I wrote that poem when I was about 15. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So these are our 3 young mentees. Over to you. And then we'll do a Q&A, so we only have a few questions.
Okay, perfect. Can everyone just introduce themselves and their role on the film? Great.
Hi, my name's Noel and I was the first AD.
Hi, I'm Kalila and I was the first AC and also a contributor.
Hi, my name's Sanari. I don't know what I was just a mentee. I did a lot of different roles.
Amazing. So how did you come about with working with Euella on the set? You can go one by one.
I initially got an email about it because I recently did an experience with the BFI Film Academy, and it essentially was just like, almost like, I guess, we need help or something. I can't even remember. It was, yeah, they just needed young people to work on it, and I've always wanted something like rich on my CV, like something that is meaningful, and I think this was really it, and I got really lucky.
I got a message to basically say, oh, there's a project going on, would you be interested in being a part of it? So I went to the first meeting, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be a part of it, just because a lot of the time people film stuff in Bristol about Bristol and then it doesn't really go anywhere. But after the first meeting and meeting everyone was really passionate and excited to film it and sort of get it out there. So, yeah.
I got sent a message about it from a youth group that I go to called ACE, and so we're actually sisters, right? So I sent her to scope the scenery out, you know what I'm saying? I said, so cool, like, what happened? And she said it was really, really good, and she wanted to do it. I said, oh, might as well do it as well. So I'm really happy that I did.
Guys, what was your biggest takeaway from working on the set? And was there anything that you'd learned about Bristol that you might not have known about before?
I think definitely, since obviously I come from a Somali background, I think it was so interesting to see like the different like part of Bristol, like different diaspora of like obviously Black Caribbeans, and like hearing stories that I've never heard before, and like how some of the stuff they've experienced is still like pretty close by, like it happened not too long ago. So yeah, I think some of the stories still shock me that like it was not that long ago, really.
For me, it was hearing stories that my mum had sort of told me, but from people that I also knew. Like Rubber used to teach me African dance and drumming, and hearing him talk about like his life experience and Ekami and all of that was just, it sort of brought it to life, because I always saw pictures, but actually hearing it from someone that experienced it was just different.
I think it really showed me like the power of community. Rubber taught us African dance, but he also taught our mum African dance as well. So like really the power of community, you know, I think it was a really nice full circle moment for us to be involved in filming it and filming people, and like we now work at Malcolm X as well, things like that. So it was just really like, I think the power of community and how I think important it is to tell stories about the place that we live. I think being from Bristol, we're not, you know, as big of a city as London. I think the black community is kind of like forgotten about here, and we're kind of seen as like, what's in Bristol? Are you guys farmers? That's what they always ask me. So it was really a really nice, powerful story, and I thought it was the perfect combination of happy and sad.
Thank you so much. We have to kind of rush up to audience questions. If the audience has questions, you guys have questions, let's get some of the other contributors back onto the stage as well.
Any questions? Anybody want to? Sure, you may.
Before any question, I just got to say I got to be the oldest mentor ever. I'm coming to my 70th birthday, but I want to thank the person who put me on the road, and she said it out there, and that's Amirah. So, Amirah, please stand up. Please. Where are you? Stand up. Believe it or not, she took me on 25 years ago, and I had no qualifications, but she said, Lloyd, something about you got passion. And I like to think, Amirah, I've saved a load of kids, a load of children. I'm mentoring today, and I hope I've done you proud. Yeah, I hope I've done you proud, you know. And also, just one more thank you. My little cousin there, Euella, that's my little cousin. That's my little... I am so proud of you, young lady. The future looks good. All right, thank you. That's just what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us as well, Lloyd. Any questions? Aha.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of actually sitting and talking to all of you, and that was a very special moment to see what our future is like. And there is a word called, I think is Ubuntu, and it is, I am because you are. And sitting here, I've seen from generation to generation of people who have helped me, then people who I've helped, and then there's like a big circle going on there. But for the three of you, you are our future, and we love you, and we want to know what, for yourselves now, what do you need to be nurtured to the next level so we can help you?
Just to say, that was Amari, CEO of Creative Power Town, who asked that question.
Yeah. For me, and this is a bit personal, I want to see more Black stories outside of London, first of all. And I want to see less like struggle stories, honestly. Like, I want to see stories about love, see stories about friendship. And I want to see more stories about young Black girls, because I think we focus on the young Black male experience a lot. And I feel like we don't focus on the young Black female experience because we're so strong and we always kind of persevere and push through. People don't really see what we're going through. So I really want to have more opportunities to be creative. I want to have just more opportunities to grow and more opportunities to be paid as well, because we've always been asked to do things free.
We gave you something. We gave you something.
I would agree with that, but also show us different career paths. Like, a lot of us are either artists or actresses, play football, basketball, whatever, and that's great. But show us, like, invite people into whatever business it is that you have, and show them that there's a different way. Because also you can talk about it and say, well, I make all this money and I do this and I do that. Okay, but how did you do that? And show people in your community. You don't want people in your books, and I get that. You don't want people in your business, but you sort of have to teach the next generation, because otherwise it ends with you. And what's the point of building something that doesn't make the community thrive?
Any other questions? Because Ronnie Size is ready to... Oh, sorry, Noel.
No, honestly, I don't even think I have anything to say.
Did they say all for you?
Yeah, like, honestly, I don't know. Yeah, I guess more exposure and more opportunities. And yeah, I guess there isn't much. It's always, the Black male experience. And I feel like this experience really allowed me to see that there's more to that. And there's, like, more, like, I don't know, people that work in media who look like us. So I think, more exposure, I think.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are going to do a quick changeover. I'd like to thank you all very much because Ronnie Size is here. and he's going to talk about his experiences and his influences, because as you saw, he was mentioned on this film, and he's got a lot of these clubs that we're talking about, and youth clubs, Ronnie Size actually went to. So let's thank the panel. Thank you so much.